Good morning.
Good morning, Michael.
The lengths that I go to for this podcast, I tell
Man, can we briefly share the kind of context of our text message yesterday?
Yeah, sure.
That I think most people would find funny. So we're currently recording this at 9 a.m. on Wednesday for our Thursday release, and Mike texted me yesterday asking if we could go early with the podcast. And to tell you how different our lives are, I'm usually up at 5 o'clock, and his first suggestion for early was, what was it, 11 a.m.?
11, yes.
11, yeah. So, So he has taken one for the team, and shown that he is, unwillingly able to make it up early, and he is here this morning, and I'm pretty happy about it.
So take her away.
Take her away. I figured that's how it's going to go. You're going to record, and I'm going to do the cast. Is that how it's going to go?
Yeah, basically, I'm rolling. So you can. All
right. If you start snoring, I'll raise my voice and get you awake. So
yeah, I've been up since 7:30.
Yeah,
snoozing. Exactly.
Snoozing. I gotta say, man, I'm pretty amped this morning. I'm pretty amped this week. It's kind of setting in that we're moving officially, and I'm excited to get back to Nashville and see a bunch of awesome people that I've missed. And the chatter on the closed Crushing Iron group has been very engaging the last week since I've been on. So I've enjoyed communicating and going back and forth with some people. And so if you haven't liked our Crushing Iron Facebook page or asked to join the closed group, please do. We're talking about a lot of cool things, and I think you even jumped on board for an open water swim here in a few weeks.
Yeah.
I had
no idea.
I didn't either.
It's here in town. I didn't know anything about it. I can't believe that people haven't contacted us about that. I mean, we could.
Right. I mean, they wonder why their numbers are down.
Yeah.
This year, but I'm looking forward to get out there and at least spectating. If not, if I can get in the water next week, who knows? Maybe I'll just I'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, just looking forward to it. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention and give a shout out to Lisa Kelly, who.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, who I didn't mention in our last podcast, but who crushed her marathon and got her BQ by like over 15 minutes, and beat her husband too. So she crushed it. So super pumped for her. Congratulations to Lisa for her BQ time and for winning her age group at the yeah.
Congratulations to you. That must feel good to have an athlete qualify for Boston.
Yeah, I mean, I've had quite a few in the past qualify, but Lisa and I have known each other for a long time. We've worked together for on and off for probably, I think, 4 or 5 years, and she actually didn't even sign up for this marathon until she did her half that I coached her to in early March. So she went from only training for a half up till for Tom King, first week of March. And we kind of decided, hey, depending on how that goes and what your time is, let's see what we can do. And she raced really well there, won her age group there, and the Boston qualifying time was well within reach. So we went on a 7-week block for a marathon, and she killed it. She did really, really well. So smart athlete, patient athlete, and all the congrats in the world for her.
Awesome. Speaking of running, I have personally come up with a surefire and easy way to detect if I've run too hard for the shape I'm in.
Oh, and you want to go ahead and tell us what that is?
Yeah, it's just a little something. If after I get back and I get I do a little rolling, and then I get in the shower, and then if I get out of the shower and I have this insatiable urge to go get cookies and order pizza, I know I'm in trouble. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. So,
man,
whatever your cookies and pizza are, keep that in mind. I think that because today I've prescribed a day off because
hey, know your body.
Pizza, cookies, day off. That's how it goes.
Not the greatest fuel.
Hey, so we're going into the pocket. I'm going to summarize it quick, and then we can go into it. How's that? So people know what's coming up, so they know what they're getting into.
Yeah, I mean, I did jump in. If they want to go and check out the Crushing Iron Facebook page, I went ahead and alluded to it earlier this morning.
That's
if you
where
didn't
I grabbed
already
it.
see that. Perfect. Then have a way.
I'm going to go with it. All right. So today what we're going to get into, and I'm pretty pumped about it because it is race season, we're going to take a look at what your race week should look like. And you said should look like. So, and also, basically a breakdown of the final week of tapering. And that's going to be huge. And I'm actually, I'm getting close, so I'm kind of excited to hear what you say about this as well. And I know that, people kind of have it's one of those things where people have an idea what they're going to do, and then it gets closer and you kind of start going, they start, getting outside of their head and thinking about weird stuff. So that'll be cool. And the second thing is, well, there's three things. The second one is Coach Robbie has been just outstanding over the years at predicting people's race time. So today we're going to kind of, he's going to kind of share a few of his inside secrets maybe as to what he looks at and what kind of things you should really kind of keep an eye on and that can be good predictors for your actual race time, like honest predictors. And the third thing, of course, is every once in a while a swim article really ruffles your feathers. So,
I was looking through some online stuff this morning, and man, this article jumped out at me. And I mean, nothing worse than reading a horribly constructed, misinformed swim article at 5:15 in the morning on a Wednesday. It could have ruined my day, but instead I choose to use it for good, and I'm going to hopefully fend off some bad decisions made by some unfortunate age group triathletes today.
Yeah, we're gonna look at an article that talks about swim hacks and drills and things like that, and why you're not too excited about it. So, where do you want to start? We got three cool little topics.
Yeah, I think we should hit on. We'll just go in order. I mean,
Okay.
I think what your race week should look like, which includes kind of the final week of tapering, is probably the one people are most interested about. That'll probably impact them the greatest. And I got thinking about this because it is race season, and I know we have a ton of athletes. I have a lot of athletes racing pretty much every weekend here throughout the next couple of weeks, and then with a bunch of 70.3s coming up, and then one of our Crushing Iron forum members, Shane Livingston, was talking about his taper for St. George, and while I do honestly and truly believe that everybody's week should is and should look differently based on your experience and training. I do feel like there are some underlying principles that you can kind of take. It's training and making a training plan is a lot like making a meal. I mean, there's a million different ways to make a certain type of dish, like a risotto. You can use different ingredients. It's how much or how little. And what temperature, and you all get the same thing, but it's going to taste different, maybe even look different, and it might appeal to different people. So, and I think tapering is one of those things where it's very, very individualized. But race week specifically, we'll go on the premise that you're racing a Sunday race. I am a huge so we'll start with swimming first. The approach that I like to take for swimming, and this is where a lot of triathletes will end up making really bad decisions, is that swimming for most triathletes is the most difficult sport for one to keep feel. And when I talk about getting feel for the water, it takes most triathletes a long time to even gain that feel, but you lose it very quickly. And what you see a lot of people do is they will cut down to like one swim. Because they're afraid they're going to overdo it, and they're tapering. And I usually recommend at least 3, if not 4 swims the week of your race. Because unless you're a very experienced swimmer, you're going to lose that feel for the water very quickly. B, swimming literally has no, very, very hard impact on your body. So you're not going to be sore for days and days and days and days and days. And it's also a great way to kind of flush out your legs a little bit without, it's more of an active recovery for your lower body, and then keeping the feel on the top. So I would always say focus on swimming and even keep the speed. Don't start to swim slow race week. That's the opposite of what you're hopefully planning to accomplish on race day. Is is you don't want to feel sluggish. You want to feel what I call primed. You want to feel ready. You want to feel peak. You want to feel like everything's running on, full blast. And swimming is one of those things that is often overlooked. And I say swim 3 to 4 times a week, and most definitely swim the day before the race. Swim in your wetsuit, swim in your tri-kit, whatever you're going to swim in the race. Swim at the location. Swim, and don't just diddle. You see a lot of people just hopping in and checking it out and treading water and chatting. I'm like, that's fine, but I don't really see the point. Especially for a swim like say we've done in the past with Louisville or Chattanooga that have or open water ocean swims where current and drift and even undertow, if you're in open water, can play an impact on sighting and on race. How you want to make your strategy for where you start out with in terms of sighting for a buoy. So play with the currents, play with upstream, play with downstream. Find good sighting points. If it's a bridge, find a column. If it's an ocean, swim out to the farthest term buoy, turn around and look at the tallest, hotel tower or something within range that you can watch, or not watch, but kind of pinpoint to know what you're going to sight off of. I always tell people, always do your practice swim at the swim exit.
Okay.
Because the turnaround at the swim exit is the most important part. As far as sighting on your exit, the swim start, it all looks the same. It's going to look the same no matter what. It's just a buoy and water. Mm-hmm. Whereas the finish is what you're going to need to sight off of to make sure you're going point to point, the shortest line, and being like where you need to. So do that.
So you're talking about the day before a race, you want to get in because you want to get the feel for that particular water.
Exactly.
And not get that in your head.
Yeah, the temperature, everything. I mean, is it going to be too hot? Is it going to be too cold? Are you wearing a wetsuit or are you not wearing a wetsuit? And just there's always a benefit in familiarity in knowing where you're going to be. And we did that. I think we swam twice at Wisconsin. And I loved it. I could just swim out there for forever, and again, sighting and talking but make it something purposeful, not like I'm just going to spend 20 minutes getting my wetsuit on, and then walk around and then get in the water and tread water and take 10 strokes and call that an actual swim. It's not going to do a lot of good.
I think you talk about a lot. You say purposeful, but you really don't want to go hammer it, right? You just say no efforts. You just say solid.
I would say just solid. Get a good feel. Feel for it's more about feel for the environment and being comfortable than it is striking. Seeing how big your match is going to be. If you want to do a couple pickups to kind of get the blood out, that's fine. But other than that, it's just more about getting feel. And the same, swimming and cycling are very, very, very close in my opinion in terms of what you want to do race week. You still want to do it, 2 to 3 times because again, cycling is one of those where it's no impact like running, and you still want to keep, we talked about this in previous episodes, is you want to keep your muscle tension. You want to keep the ability for your legs to fire. You want to have your muscles and tendons and ligaments still able to contract and release to keep that speed. That's something that we talked about on the Steve Magnus podcast as well. Is you still want to hold on to that muscle tension. So you're doing some spin ups, doing some work at threshold, that's fine. You don't want to make them 20 minutes, but you still want to keep your muscles primed because after about 48 to 72 hours, you don't lose it, but your body starts to think, okay, well, I'm not going to use it as much as I was, so it might break down just a hair. So just a little bit of effort keeps you. You're not looking to gain fitness. You're just looking to keep fitness and allow your body to get fresh. So it's a very, very big difference. And again, I recommend, like I do all 3, cycling the day before. Test out a route, test out your equipment. Not to pick on you, but that's something that you may have noticed at your New Orleans race. If you'd have gotten out and rode a good bit the day before, you might have noticed your brake rubbing. Something that could be easily fixed. Whether that happened the morning of or not. And honestly, a lot of things happen the night before because there's so much racking of bikes and the wind and things get knocked around. But the day before is kind of a good time to just kind of take the bike out. No hard efforts. I usually tell my athletes, if you're going to go ride at an effort to where I could hand you a cup of coffee and you could just literally go for the rest of the ride and drink it one-handed. That's how easy it needs to be.
Okay.
Questions so far?
No.
I know I'm blazing through, man. I've just had a cup of coffee, so.
Well, did we swim? I can't remember if we swam exactly the day before. I guess we did.
Yeah,
and we definitely rode.
You didn't want to, but we definitely rode, and we ran.
Oh, that's right. We did run.
Yeah, we did all three.
The day before.
And the day before that, we just swam.
That's what it was,
but we swam pretty long, probably about 20, 30 minutes. We did, and we swam at the there it's great because the eggs and the enter where you enter is the same place, which is awesome. But it kind of gives you Wisconsin was easy to do that. Some places you can't, like Louisville, you have to start at the end. I'm not sure about Chattanooga. I haven't done that race before, but, and then obviously anything open water, that's an ocean, you can get in and hop in and do whatever you want to there.
Yeah, you can. And that day before swim, obviously, these 3 to 4 swims, I meant to ask this, but it depends on kind of your swim shape too up at that point. But I think all this stuff does. That's up to you to get into that shape to be able to swim 3 or 4 times a week without,
Don't make changes. Yeah, if you're a once or twice a week swimmer, then stick with once or twice a week. Mm-hmm. But you should be swimming 3 or 4 times a week. Especially if you're doing something a longer distance, even if you're not, because that's the best way to get faster at swimming. Is to swim more. Swim more days a week than you don't. It's a really hard and fast rule. Swim more days than you don't. Don't go from 1 to 2 to 4, but don't go from 4 to 3 to just 1, because you're going to lose after a couple days.
Right, and don't be doing a cookie and pizza swim the day before a race.
Yeah. No, we have no room for a cookie pizza swim.
Well, I think it's interesting what you're saying. You're saying a lot because I'm so into the mental part of it. But what you're telling me a lot of here is this you're not letting your mind forget what you've been doing, up to the end, right?
Yeah, and even your body.
Your body too,
don't
for sure.
Want your body to get slow. It's like people they're sitting around and getting fresh, and then there's like tapering is not resting. It's recovering and peaking. And that's a common misconception we've talked about in previous podcasts. When people hear taper, they hear no workouts, maximum rest, 5 to 10 minutes max. That's it. And obviously it's all dependent on, when your last big weekend was, and that's all dependent on how your overall, it's like your taper week is really honestly dictated by what you've done the last 6 months. Versus how much you've trained, how many hours you've put in. When was your biggest peak week? Have you even hit it yet? Are you still trying to gain fitness? Are you going to do a 1-week taper, a 2-week taper, a 10-day taper? Anything over 2 weeks, in my opinion, is pointless. You're just getting slower and more sluggish.
And I don't know if this is a real sensation for, especially beginner triathletes is, once they get into that taper, they get closer to the race. I've had this happen to me before, and you kind of get this sensation that you sort of forgot how to ride or you forget how to swim. You know what I mean?
God, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Especially, yeah.
Of course you haven't, but you just, for some reason, haven't been doing it enough or whatever, and you're kind of like, man, I hope I can remember how to swim tomorrow.
Oh man, yeah, it's one of those things where you lose the feeling. You lose, especially for some triathletes, you lose, your bike handling after like a day, and you see people the day before, and you're like, you see like a million people go down. But same thing. And then for running, I'll take it a little bit differently. The frequency of your runs should stay the same for the most part. I'm a 4 to 6 day a week runner, and race week I'll probably still do 3 to 4, but I'll take some full days off, and my runs will come down dramatically to just like 10 to 15 minutes. And that's like that's the easiest running you can possibly imagine that I'll be doing.
But that's for you. That's not for a triathlon.
For me, no. For a normal person, I would say if you're going to shelve anything, shelve the run once a week. Run not once a week. Race week, run twice. run a little bit the day before off the bike, just to kind of get that feeling and remind your body what you're going to do. And then I usually have my athletes run on Tuesday. Just a short, 25, 30-minute run with some strides, keep the legs awake. And then the next day is usually an easy swim or recovery ride. And then if it's let's say a Sunday race, Friday is totally off. And then Saturday is kind of your race, what I call race day prep, which is you go through all three. Because if your Sunday race, Thursday is usually people's travel day. And instead of taking your whole travel day off, I always like to tell athletes to do something. And a lot of people will do something before they do go on this long car ride or flight, which I think is the opposite. It's like it's not going to do you any good. You're just going to go sit in the car and let your legs get stiff. If anything, choose to get on the road earlier, and then when you get to a destination, go for a swim, go for a short treadmill run, or go for a quick easy spin to wake those legs back up and get the blood circulating again. But that's what I usually recommend, and it usually works out fairly well.
Okay, can we talk a little bit about this week of hydration, electrolyte thing? I mean,
yeah. We talked about that before. I'll touch on it again. If it's and we'll again work on the premise that this is a Sunday race. I always recommend Wednesday, Thursday, heavy hydration days. You're allowed to carry your jug of water if you choose to do so, and drink as much water as you possibly can. And basically, you're not going to waterlog yourself, but you're going to maximally hydrate yourself. After that Wednesday, Thursday period, you're not cutting off, quote unquote water, but I want you to cut off plain water. And then Friday, Saturday, what I prefer is sipping on Gatorade or your EFS or whatever it is you use for your carbohydrate drink or Tailwind or whatever you want it to be. Sip on that. Because if you continue to drink so much water and only water, you're actually going to dehydrate your body from a nutrient standpoint. You're just going to continue to pee out the excess water, because the more water you take in, the more water you eventually have to release, because your body can only hold so much. So if you start to drink 4 days worth of water, and on the day before the race you're chugging this water, you're just going to pee out all the electrolytes and nutrients that you have worked so hard to kind of build up and store during that race week.
Yeah, and of course sipping is just the way to go. I mean, I'm a chugger, so it's better for me to always use a water bottle, because that way I can just sort of just splash a little bit in.
Exactly. Yep. I always do the water bottle too, because you can't chug it. You're just like, I take a little squirt here, take a little squirt there, and everything is good.
Mm-hmm. And is that cut? Is your I use Scratch, so is it cut? Is it pretty heavy mixture? What?
Mine is usually pretty heavy. Yeah. Mine is. So if EFS calls for 2 scoops, I'll usually do 3. But I'm already so hydrated. If I did normal, I'd just blaze through it. Really, at that point, I'm just looking at saturating the water I've already absorbed with the nutrients, not continuous hydration at that point.
Gotcha. And then race morning is a similar sip on the electrolyte?
Yep, same thing. Sip. You should be stocked and loaded at that point. And race morning is just, continual sipping, a couple goos, and, I like to do my sweet potatoes. Everybody has their own thing. Applesauce and pretzels are a couple of my favorites as well. And they're easy, they're bland, you're not going to risk you having your stomach upset. And those are kind of, surefire things I like to go with.
Okay, so we've done this nice week of tapering, and then we sit back the night or two before and we start drawing up our estimated time plan.
Yeah, man, this is a tough one.
I know.
You put me on the spot here, on a major scale. But I am, for whatever reason, I have done very, very well in the past at predicting my own, or especially my athletes' race times. And a lot of that comes with just knowledge. And I look back at results, and I look back at I can look at things objectively, especially for my athletes, and then what helps me out personally, and what I as most people, hopefully you're lucky enough to have some loved ones and some friends or whatever. They're going to be there to support you, and they always want to know, when can I expect you? When can I expect you? When can I expect you? And for me, I started doing this out of courtesy to Allie and whoever it was that was coming to watch, because let's be honest, watching a triathlon in person is incredibly boring for the most part. It's hurry up and wait, and a little bit of hey, how you doing? Good, almost done. Not really. Bye. And so what I would do is I'd build out a note card, little index card the night before, and I would have swim. I'd have a great swim time, good swim time, bad swim time. And then I'd go to T1 and just do an estimate, like 5 minutes. Then I'll do the bike. Good split or great split, good split. Things are bad split. And as far as like when they should worry, when they shouldn't worry, and then kind of when to look for me so they don't waste their time expecting me to be in at 4 hours because they know nothing about how long it's going to take me versus 5. And then run wise, I usually just give them a goal, like a goal pace I'm looking to hold, not a time, because usually run courses are much more friendly, and it's just a lot easier to do the pace. Because most of the time I'll say, hey, if I'm doing this pace, tell me to slow down. It's never to say speed up. If I ever hear anybody saying go faster on Ironman run course, I'll probably kick him in the trachea. I mean, it's like it's never going to happen. It's always slow down. Because most of the times people start out too fast and then they end up walking the back half. So that's usually where I start. And then for me, it's really about how many times have you trained in a real world environment? If you've done, it's really easy if you do an IM to roll back and look at your 70.3 results. But there's things you have to take into context. You have to take in context wind, hills, the temperature. There's so many things that can derail your race that, the ones I've been able to predict in the past have been only dead on because the atmosphere and the environment was almost exactly how I expected it to be. If you're going into a race where it's going to ends up just being super windy or really, really hot or really, really cold, then you can kind of throw what you thought out the window and just go by feel. But from a swimming standpoint, I look at people's 70.3 times, and let's say that you did a 30-minute 70.3 swim. I usually double that, and I only add about 5 minutes. And it's dependent on the athlete. If you're a person who if you're like a lot of swimmers and you have just the same speed, it literally might be 30 minutes to just doubling it to making an hour. For me, mine's pretty much the same. I have the same kind of 70.3 speed as I do a full speed. So I'm like usually a 25 to 26 minute 70.3 swimmer. So I usually estimate my time to be between, if it's an incredible swim, 53, 54 up to like 58. That's usually where I fall.
Yeah.
Cycling is go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, we can do this. I just wanted to add in that where this all started, at least for me, is when I had never done a 70.3, and you predicted my Muncie time to what, the minute?
It was down to the minute. Yep, it was down to the minute.
But I guess you're with me a lot, and you had seen me a lot of do a lot of swimming, a lot of running, and we wrote a lot.
Before I go
or
in,
should we go forward and have you predict CC's time for the Chattanooga 70.3 so I have a target?
CC will do a 4:57:20.
All right, DNS for me.
But no. In all seriousness, the cycling is the hardest, and I can usually just generalize, and that's just from data. Looking at if you're usually doing your long rides, and it's all about terrain. Ballparking it between 15 to 20 minutes is usually the best that I tell people to recommend, one way or the other. Because you could be having just a flat out ridiculously awesome day, or you could be having a rough day because winds are crazy. The run is where, is the most difficult to predict people. And a general rule of thumb is to take, let's take your open time. So let's say your open half marathon or your open marathon time. And if you're doing a 70.3, add 10% of the time to your open time, and then add 15% of your open time to your marathon time. So just to give an example, if you're doing a 70.3 and your half marathon PR is 1:30 and you've done it recently, then so that's 90 minutes. Then 10% of that would be 9 minutes. So you're looking at somewhere between 139 to 140 for your actual split. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So usually, and that's where, people, really come. That's the run is where people just totally blow up in terms of their expectations and time projections. And that's where you want to be the most on point, is with your expectations, is because it's reality is what's going to either hurt or help you the most. And then ultimately, to be totally 100% honest, a lot of it is of what I get or what I do when I guess or predict people's times is where I think they are mentally and what I actually think their body is capable of. And that is from weeks and months of seeing their training. And sometimes it's just seeing one or two workouts where I think, oh man, they've got it in them to do this. And then if I tell them what I think they're capable of doing, usually it's just just planting that seed of not doubt, but that seed of confidence to say, oh, he thinks I can do that, then I should too. And I'm always conservative on the bike, and usually the athlete's like, oh, you think I'm going to be that slow? Because I'd rather them go slower on the bike and then run faster than they think they're capable of than vice versa, because usually ends up poorly. But usually it's what I see from an athletic and kind of a training response standpoint that makes me say, all right, I think on your best day, all things aside and all things being equal with environment and everything like that, you're capable of this. And that's usually where I get my times is it's I wish I could say it's like some simple thing as using like the try calculator, but a lot of it is just knowing someone fairly intimately from not just a training standpoint, from also how they are mentally, and almost sometimes predicting their way towards what I believe they're capable of versus what they may or may not think they can actually do.
Yeah, I think that is true. I think the having a coach part, that's another huge part of having a coach, is they instill sort of this confidence but not only that, belief system and sort of drive. You know what I mean? Like you have at times when that's why I'm a little bit nervous now that you threw that out with CC, because he's probably going, all right, I gotta stand up to that. My coach thinks I'm gonna do it. And there's something to that, I mean, I just in general, like for workouts or just being able to finish to whatever it may be, you got a coach in your corner that's seen it from the outside, that can look at it objectively and give you that reassurance. I think that's a huge thing. Now, do we have time to go into your swim thing, or do you want to?
Yeah, I got about 5 to 6 more minutes before I got to get going, and I'd love to get into it real quick. Yeah,
let's go into it real quick. We'll link to the article, and you guys can read it maybe we shouldn't even send them. It's a cool picture on there.
Not really. It looks like a pretty dirty pool with no lane lines.
I know, but it's right on the ocean or something like that.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. But anyway, I read this, and the title is Swim Drills for Triathletes, Top 5 Badass Swim Drills to Improve Your Triathlon Swim.
Badass.
And the first thing you need to know is that the website's called Triathlon Hacks. So you should unsubscribe and block.
No.
So you don't see anything that whoever this is puts out. Because the first thing they do is they compare. Well, let me be honest. The first line is, learning correct swim drills for triathletes is essential to race fast. And then I actually laughed even harder when I read or you will get swimmer's shoulder and rotator cuff tendonitis due to loading the tendons poorly. And a lot of their drills are focused on high elbow And I read a really great research article and paper a couple weeks ago that Blake Ogle sent me about why the high elbow is actually very bad for your shoulder.
Wow.
Yeah. So
what do we trust, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and then before they even start their the why should I learn swim drills for triathletes, the first line is, remember also that Olympic swimmers do swim drills.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
So anyway, yeah, I mean, and I glanced through, and the first one is the best swim drills for triathletes. One is kicking drills, give me a break, pass. 2 is one of my least favorites, fingertip drag. Now, number 3 is actually not a bad one, and that's the fist drill. Mm-hmm. I'm actually somewhat of a fan for this, but I would incorporate a million other things before I would incorporate doing the fist drill. Mm-hmm. Like band work, buoy work, the Tarzan drill. And then the ketchup drill was where I just almost quit reading in general, which is the one where he teaches your body to glide. Mm-hmm. This drill is great at teaching. Well, it says it's got a typo and grammatical error. It says this drill is great as teaching you the glide, body position, and good arm technique. And as I quoted in our closed Crushing Iron group, let me know how that gliding goes for you when you hit the open water.
Yeah.
And it's just, this isn't the way to make you faster. And what I wanted to bring up was there's so much of this out there that it is so terribly confusing. But what you can do is you can look to the best minds in the sport, which I'm not claiming at all to be. The Brett Suttons, the Joe Filiols, the Paulo Souza, who's coached world champion athletes at all different distances, and see if you can figure out what they say. And they would tell you this is like the absolute worst advice you've ever gotten in your entire life. In terms of swimming, if you want to learn how to swim slow, do this. If you want to learn how to waste your time swimming, do this. It's just, and it's funny because they never once mention the word open water in this article. It's all about the pool. And then it ends it with a little what does Michael Phelps do? It's like, hello,
I know.
We're not Michael Phelps.
I know.
Nor do we have the body type of Michael Phelps with like orangutan arms. It's like they train 100% differently. That's why if you asked one of them to go, that's why you never see mile distance swimmers in the pool compete in open water or even shorter, because it's a totally different sport, and the dynamics and the demands are completely, utterly different. It's like when they say even Olympic swimmers work on swim drills daily to improve and maintain their stroke technique. These swimmers are fighting for 0.000100th of a millisecond. It's telling me it's like telling me or telling you that you should go out and do the exact same run warm up and run technique drills that somebody doing the 100 meter Olympic trials is going to do.
Yeah.
It's just it's terrible information. And if you have anybody out there that's in your age group that you don't really like, that you're competing with this year for a podium spot, send them this article and say, hey man, I just read this. It blew my mind. You should try it. And then as you pass them in the swim, you can kind of thank me for that, and the Triathlon hacks for producing such meaningless swim advice for triathletes around the world.
Wow. Well, I think that what you said there, it was a Michael Phelps, and what it says is he swims 45 miles a week is what they say. And I think that's the whole point, and I'm glad you just said that again, because they are swimming all the time, and they're competing, for that millisecond. And
45 miles a week.
Yeah.
And it's insane. And of those 45 miles, I bet 42 to 43 are just swimming.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say, is if you're looking for that much fine tuning, and that's the whole point, right? Is that's what drills come down to. If you can't swim well, if you just don't have the strength or endurance to even swim, why even mess with these drills? It's such a minute, probably. I could see like how maybe it does give you a little bit better feel. Something, I'm not saying exactly which one or whatever, but some of these things might give you better feel, or just that little nuance or something that might make that millisecond difference or whatever. And I mean, they're just running out. It's like getting bored with something and trying to dig deeper, you know. But we don't. Most triathletes, 99.9% of them, don't have, you know, the swim, you know, capabilities of people like this. So
yeah, and that's why I'm not endorsing the fist drill, but of those 5, the swim drill is the only one that makes even somewhat sense. Mm-hmm. And it's actually counterintuitive to all the other things we're trying to teach. Because if you swim like 25s or 50s with just your fist closed, it's teaching you to get a good feel for the water on your forearms. But if you don't have a fast arm turnover, then you will sink. You know, so if you try to apply that same drill with a glide that they want to teach you, you will sink to the bottom.
Yeah.
And then you'll have to open your fist to push yourself off from drowning.
Just watch some of that open water swimming stuff, you know, that racing stuff that I was talking about the other day, like that 10K in the Olympics. I mean, the swim style is just completely different, man. It's just this.
It's totally different.
It's this Johnny, you know, the Tarzan kind of thing where they're just. I mean, it's kind of crazy, Johnny Tarzan. But it was just amazing watching that because they are all packed in there and they're just beating the crap out of each other.
Yeah, exactly. You don't see anybody gliding, you'd get run over and left.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah. So in close, don't read this article and go flip the shark, and and start swimming slowly.
Oh man! All right. Well, I like what's going down here, man.
Yeah, me too. I appreciate you getting up early, and hope you enjoyed our second to last podcast in different states.
Yeah, this is part of my training. Actually, we're gonna start doing these casts earlier. I'm gonna start getting up earlier so I can get up for that race.
I love it, man.
Oversleep my first race is my biggest nightmare.
Sounds good, man. All right, I'll check you on Sunday. Have a good day. Don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes and like our Crushing Iron Facebook page. And if you want to communicate further with our community, please look into joining our Crushing Iron closed Facebook group.
Oh, yeah, and one other thing I want to ask is if there's anybody out there that's like, quote-unquote, in the social media marketing world or anything like that and has a little time to give some advice or help in, you know, like website. Well, we've got website covered, but I'm just looking for sort of tech people that have some ideas on how we can pull this whole thing together because we're creating a lot of content and doing some cool things. It's just it would be kind of nice to have an outside eye on it. And just email me at crushingiron@gmail.com. You know,
Here.
If that's your world.
I like it.
All right. So, Country Music Marathon this weekend. We know a lot of people running that probably. And good luck to everybody.
Yeah, Matthew Dickinson has a half marathon this weekend, and Danny Sturdivant has a Olympic try, shaking off the rust before Chattanooga 70.3.
Ooh, I should do that. I'm going to see you at that swim race, buddy.
Sounds good, brother. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.